All right, so Brianna Wu, for those of you who don't know, is a as you can see, the executive director of what is this? Rebellion PAC, former candidate for U.S. House in Massachusetts in 2018. We'll get to that. Software engineer, Bond Dog, blah blah blah. Brianna made her bones being a victim of Gamergate back in the day. Brianna also started her political career working for Trent Law. For those of you who don't know who Trent Law was the former Senate Minority Leader on the Republican side. So Brianna goes, this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I think teachers should alert parents if their kids are trans at school. California's law is bad. The trans community can't have it both ways. That being trans is a healthcare issue that can cause suicide, and that minors need healthcare access before puberty does lifelong damage, but also it's none of the parents' business? Who's saying that, Brianna? Who the fuck is saying that, Brianna? These are two mutually exclusive attitudes, and to me, getting those kids psychological care is the highest priority. I was a queer kid with crazy right-wing parents who disowned me the second I came out. Except they didn't, because guess what? You got all kinds of money from them that allowed you to transition. I do understand the risk, but if the school is aware of the situation and there are state resources and child protective services if that child ends up homeless or abused. So, Brianna is basically saying, well, the school goes ahead and lets the parents know. School goes ahead, lets the parents know. Hey, you know what? Your kid's trans. Kid gets kicked out of the home. This is a bizarre assumption. But yeah, it's an unpopular opinion, at least with me, because I think the child's welfare is the most important thing. And I'm not sure that Brianna has read the California law. Anywho, let's get back here. Let's sort of look at what the law actually says. Shall we do that? How about that? Support academic futures and educators for today's Youth Act. Now, mind you, it's like Brianna's going, Gavin Newsom did this, and the right wing is going, Gavin Newsom did this. Why do you suppose that is? Because Gavin Newsom is a person who is often talked about as a potential replacement for Joseph Robinette Biden. It's like, come on, people. You would think that somebody who is in theory a political actor would have some kind of cognizance about that, but hey, maybe not. All right, so existing law requires the State Department of Education to develop resources. Existing state law requires the State Department of Education to develop resources or, as appropriate, update existing resources for in-service training on school site and pardon me. for the support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning LGBTQ pupils and strategies to increase support for LGBTQ pupils as specified. The bill would require the State Department of Education to develop resources or, as appropriate, update existing resources for supports and community resources for the support of parents. Oh, my goodness, they actually include parents, Brianna. Guardians, families of LGBTQ pupils and strategies to increase support for LGBTQ pupils as specified. This bill would prohibit school districts, county offices of education, charter schools, and the state special schools, and a member of the governing board or body of those educational entities from enacting, this is key, from enacting or enforcing any policy, rule, or administrative regulation that requires an employee or contractor to disclose any information related to a pupil's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression to any other person without the pupil's consent, unless otherwise required by law as provided. So all this brouhaha is all about protecting the child and protecting the child against state intervention that would require the child's teachers to disclose the child's place as identifying as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or queer. That's all the law does. It's not saying that the state is going to ignore its other responsibilities to interact with the child and their family. It's saying that a school, no law can be promoted. No school district can put into place a law that requires a teacher to tell a child's parents that the child identifies as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. That's all it says. I don't understand why people don't get nuance anymore. And I particularly don't understand why people who are a member of who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer intersex or asexual plus. I don't understand why anybody who is in that community is freaking out about this at all. But I think that one of the curious things is that there are certain members of our community of people who do fall into that category. It's like this is a political minefield. And I think that in in any movement of liberation, of expansion of rights, timidity is one of the worst things that can happen. And that's where I think Brianna is rightly subject to criticism. Now, beyond that, I've done my critique of Brianna Wu. I want to point out that let's see. I think I've lost. I kind of lost the thread when I was trying to work out some audio issues that we had going on earlier. But yeah, okay. Let's see if I go back. No, that doesn't work. I need to find my proper tab. Yeah. Okay. So this is a good response from Ari Drennan, a wonderful reporter, activist, works for I think Media Matters. Who responds to that tweet. The reason this is an unpopular opinion in the trans community is that more than 35% of trans youth experience homelessness, and it's usually because they were either kicked out or abused by their parents. So the California State Legislature passed this law that said you can't be required to tell the parents about a child in trouble and exacerbate the problem that child may be having. That doesn't mean that the school can't interact with both the child and the parent to mitigate a problem that clearly exists. I think it's very, very weird. People tend to abstract the difficulties of being a trans kid. People tend to abstract that as if it's like, well, it will just generalize. This law is literally trying to obviate the generalization. It stands in stark contrast to Florida's policy. If the kid says they're gay, you gotta tell the parents. The kid says they're gay. Fuck the consequences. California is taking the position that the child deserves consideration in the mix, as do the families. It's not saying that, the state is going to arrest the parents for what California is saying is, we're not going to put the child at risk. At the same time, we are allowed to speak with the family about the child's situation the way they would do in any other circumstance. Hey, Joanne is having a problem paying attention in class. Is there anything going on at home? We want to make sure that the child is able to learn. I mean, this is pedagogy. What California is saying is that they're not going to immediately decide that the child's problem is that they're gay or trans. I mean, come on, people. Let's be real about this. And yet, we have a bad take from a trans woman who has run for public office and lost badly, who has made her bones about being active in the political sphere, and deigns to provide advice to people who have actually won. And this is my point. This is my point. My point is that Brianna has been a bit of a lightning rod for allies in the YouTube sphere about, wow, she's fucking nuts, and she's just not going this way or that. And I have a problem with that. I do. I have a problem with that because I don't think featuring trans people with bad takes is doing trans people any fucking favors at all. Especially for channels that, are allies, and legitimately so. But would they feature Buck Angel? Would they feature Blair White? Would they feature, I don't know, Debbie Hayden? Would they feature these people as trans people have bad take? Why aren't they featuring Danica Rome? Why aren't they featuring her accomplishments as a Virginia delegate? Why aren't they featuring Chase Strangio? His accomplishments as an advocate for trans people. Why aren't they featuring Sarah McBride, the first trans candidate for the United States House of Representatives in Delaware? Why? Why aren't they featuring Zoe Zephyr, a representative to a legislature that is overwhelming, in a state that is overwhelmingly red? Why are they focused on Brianna Wu, who is accomplishing nothing? Nothing. Why aren't we focusing on the accomplishments of trans people who have accomplished much? My advice to YouTube channels who become fixated on the bad takes of this trans person or that trans person is to drop it and to focus on the legitimate accomplishments of trans people in the here and now. Because you're focusing on the bad shit is only making it worse for me. For the Transpositions, I'm Stephanie Helms.